Happy New Year, everybody. Thank you for joining us in the Locher Room on this Thursday, January 4th. I'm Alan Locher. Today, creator, actor, and producer Brad Forenza and two of his stars of Around the Sun, Robert Funaro, who played Eugene Pontecorvo on the HBO hit series The Sopranos, and Emmy Award-winning actress Cady McClain are stopping by to discuss Season 3 of the award-winning episodic audio drama Around the Sun. Season 3 premiered in October, and the final episode aired yesterday, and all three seasons are available where you listen to your favorite podcasts. In Season 3, Brad has started something new with Around the Sun. Each episode builds upon more of the story, and this season's story focuses on the Pinecones family and their friends, and it is voiced by an EGOT-winning cast. The series is presented via the Broadcast Podcast Network, and like I said, available where you listen to your favorite podcasts. Please help me welcome to the Locher Room Brad Forenza, Robert Funaro, and Cady McClain. Hello! Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year. Jazz hands, hello.
Did everyone have a good New Year's?
Totally.
Do anything unique or fun to celebrate? Cady?
Just really mostly relaxing. I can't say that's particularly unique. I was just very quiet this year, just chill.
Did a whole lot of cooking. Made a bolognese lasagna that was super.
Oh.
Made a stuffed roast pork for the meat eaters.
Wow.
I did a lot of cooking, a lot of cooking. I'm done with that now. Hello.
What time should we all be over?
Anytime is a good time. I'm here.
You're reminding me that the Christmas movie we watched, which is kind of like feels like my annual Christmas movie, was The Godfather. How is this not a Christmas movie? There's Christmas all over this movie.
I don't put sugar in my sauce like Clemmons. I don't do that.
And what about you, Brad?
Surprise trip to Nashville. So lots of good Southern cooking.
Ooh.
Including barbecue and fried chicken, of course.
Mac and cheese?
Which is much better than me cooking at home because I'm a survivalist chef. Yeah, mac and cheese, for sure. Coleslaw.
Good stuff.
And some good old country music.
Cornbread with that?
I bet. In Nashville.
That cornbread's good with that barbecue, man.
Yeah, Tennessee's got some good barbecue. That is for sure. Brad, congratulations on Season 3. Take me back to October of 2021 when you first released Season 1. Where did the original idea for Around the Sun come from? Remind us.
Yeah, well, Season 1, all the pieces were in the bag. They were formerly produced as 10-minute plays, and they had been produced for the better part of a decade in the 10-minute play circuit. But Season 2 was written expressly for the audio drama / radio play landscape. And now Season 3, production evolves and writing evolves. And that's the challenge to myself as a writer-producer. And Season 3, which stars Robert and Cady, is a continuous story. So we're calling it a mini-series audio drama, not so self-contained like Seasons 1 and Seasons 2.
That's awesome. I'm curious, are you all podcast listeners yourself? Do you have favorite podcasts that you go to, whether news or whether serialized or Cady?
I like the Calm app. They're like very individual stories. I never fall asleep to them, but I find them very interesting and beautiful. Like one was like a train ride up the coast of Ireland, and last night I was listening to Shakespeare's London, and I'm like, I don't want to fall asleep to this. This is fascinating.
What about you, Robert? You have any that you listen to?
I've been watching a lot of PBS lately. I'm not really a big podcast. But I don't know, it's PBS, I guess, you know.
Yeah, not everybody does the podcast.
My son
Brad?
tells me about him, you know, like in the car, and I should really take advantage when these long drives, and so I'm going to probably try to do that. You know, sorry, Alan, sorry.
That is where they're great for. You know,
Yeah.
I didn't think I was interested either because of the attention span, and I had a long drive, and I really loved. I think it was Powder Burns by David A. Gregory, which I thought was fascinating. The voice cast was incredible. His story was incredible. And, you know, for a 6-hour drive, it was great. It was great.
Nice.
Brad, what about you?
I do the audio equivalent of PBS. So The Daily is a regular podcast, nonfiction news of the day, but long form news of the day. And Broadway Podcast Network, which Around the Sun is part of, also does some great, let's call it like it's documentary audio series. So I've enjoyed getting to learn about the backstage of the musical Carrie, among other things. And it feels, when you listen to that, it feels like a serial. It's pretty cool.
That's awesome. Speaking of season 3, why did you want to do something different? You know, turn it into a mini series. Was it just where you were at this point in your storytelling?
Yeah, I think so. I think season 1 is kind of happenstance, and I'm very proud of all seasons. Obviously, it's like my magnum opus. I'll just speak for myself. And in my introverted world, before I get to work with the likes of Bobby and Cady and everyone else, I have to challenge myself to keep it interesting as a writer. So again, season 1, that was in the bag, and we were all shut-ins back in 2020, 2021. So it was kind of logical to just repurpose those 10-minute plays for this new evolving landscape. And then season 2, I followed the same model, all self-contained pieces, but with some more cohesive themes. And then our season right now, with a continuous plot line, just felt like a natural progression of things.
That's awesome.
In
Cady
any
and Robert,
season, in any public health climate,
what drew you, Robert and Cady, to the project?
Oh, well, working with Brad. I mean, I had so much respect for the podcast season of Around the Sun, season 1, season 2. And it was just so cool what he was doing. And I was really hoping he would ask me. So I was like, oh, he asked me, yes. I didn't even ask. I was like, what it was. I was like, whatever you want. Totally, I will do it. I just think it's so cool what he made. And so I'm thrilled to be a part of it.
And Robert, for you?
Well, I didn't know about Around the Sun. I was unaware. But my manager has some clients that worked with Brad and told me that it's a really great project. And then I looked into it. I said, wow, this is fantastic. And, you know, I definitely like to be a part of it. And then when I read the script, I was even more elated because I saw the bunch of people who had been, you know, were joining in to the actors that were, you know, involved in it. I said, wow, it's a great cast of actors. So then I read the script and I said, wow, this is really sad and but fun too.
Cady and Robert, did you know each other prior?
No, I was very excited when I heard I was going to get to work with Robert. Obviously, I'm a fan of all the work that you've done. I think if I haven't said that, then I will say it now. You've done such amazing work. It was a total thrill. And we just had fun, you know, I was in my closet and he was in his, you know, and you do this podcast, you're like with all your clothes and all this stuff and your headphones, you're like, oh my God, I'm acting in the closet. Let me out.
That's great. I
feel the same way about Cady. It was really, you know, I love her work too. I love your work also. And I thought you was just so good. Pleasure to work with great people. It's just wonderful. It's like being on the dream team in a way. when you're working with professional people.
I know the business has changed so much that you actually, do so much of your auditions at home and in your own closets. But is it fun to actually do a project at home and not have to leave and not get made up and not put on clothes if you want,
What's so cool about it is that like for me anyway, I felt like the creativity was like, it's like in the air, it's not having to do with the lights or the, of course, all props to like, great, set deck, but, and production values and all of that. But like taking away that element of it really made me realize, wow, like this is so much about communication and connection and listening and the storytelling, and that creativity was just like hovering around us while we were making it. And once we caught that little vibe, it was really beautiful. It was just exciting and joyful, to take away things so that we could just have that pure creative moment.
I find it very challenging, but at the same time, I realized that a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, there were radio plays. And if one was to think about that, you kind of throw out the method acting in a way because you're not there in person. So in that way, it's challenging, but it's very rewarding too, because you're finding another medium to exercise your acting abilities with the technicalities of not being with the reacting and being there. So in that sense, it's rewarding, but I still find it quite challenging, the Zoom things. But taping is okay. I always work with a person, so it's all right. But in the other sense, but when you have a good script, I'm just saying it's a lot easier. And Brad's script was a lot easier to do.
Well, speaking of that, Brad, Cady and Bobby's episode Christmas Past is a bit abstract, and it seems that you put at least one abstract episode in each year. Why have you felt the need to do that?
Well, they seem to be the most theatrical, the abstract episodes, the episodes where the listener really has to kind of create the world in their mind's eye. And also in being the most theatrical, I think there's perhaps the most meat for actors to sink their teeth into. And Cady and Bobby's episode plays with time and space, what's real, what's imagined, what's a memory, what's being reenacted, and they nailed it. I thought that I would be the voice of a ghost, but I learned in doing it that it would be better for a third person to be a voice of a ghost, but also they voiced their own ghosts so nicely that I couldn't imagine doing it any differently.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Robert, I'd be curious, what first drew you to acting?
What first drew me to acting?
Yeah.
Well, my uncle was a priest in Brooklyn, and he started out in Howard Beach, and he would put up these musical productions to raise money. And then finally, he built his following up, and he was, I would say, raising funds for Catholic charities. And he put on these really professional, The Music Man, Anything Goes. He actually had Meredith Wilson came to see him in Christ the King in Queens. So I got the bug going to those shows and watching those great musicals, and then it just kind of was like bled into the family, that kind of drama, the bug, so to say. And that's how I got my love for theater and the love of acting.
Wow, I love that.
Yes.
Brad, I understand it was Robert and Cady who encouraged you to keep yourself in this season. Tell us about that and your role as Spike in season 3.
Yeah. Well, apologies if there's a bit of a delay. I'll tell it and hope that you hear it in sync, and I'm not stepping on anyone else's words. That's the magic of Zoom, or these remote technologies. But I do, you know, I'm an actor as well, and I put myself in an episode a season. But with this season, in it being a mini series, there are multiple episodes. So I wanted to do, like I said, the voice in the bar, a voice of a ghost. I don't want to put too much of myself in this season, but they encouraged me to do it. There's one character that's kind of a goofball, maybe someone who has a bit of an arrested development, interacts with everyone. It wound up being that I had to record that part from session to session to session, because not every actor recorded together. So Cady and Bobby recorded together. Jay Rodriguez and Wilson Jermaine Heredia recorded together, and other people recorded together at the same time. I was the connective tissue. So remembering their voices in my head saying, do it, this goofball is in your wheelhouse. I stuck with it, but I stuck with it because their voices encouraged me to. So thank you, Bobby and Cady. I think, hopefully I'm not stepping on anyone's words, but I think there's a big part of me and a part of actors that wants to break out of type. And I think the encouragement that Bobby and Cady gave me was, it's a good part for you. So there you have it. And I'm grateful for it.
I love that. Cady and Robert, is there somebody at any point in your careers who gave you that sort of, encouragement?
Robert, you go first.
Well, my mom, because I went to Pace University for business. I wanted to drive a Jaguar and be a big, with the Armani glasses and everything. But then life and nature took its course, and God perhaps, and maybe God all the way. And then I wrote a poem for my final on my accounting course, and I went home miserable and said, "Mom, I hate this." And she said, "Why don't you do what you love and take that I have drama in Pace University, Pace College in downtown New York." And they did, and I joined the program, and I really I only finished 1 year, but I really enjoyed it. And from then, it wasn't a straight path for me, but finally, I guess it was James Gandolfini, Jimmy, that when he asked me to be on the show, and I lied to him, telling him that I've been acting, which I wasn't. But he did encourage me, especially when I got on, to keep going, regardless of how difficult it was for me. I never really worked professionally, like I was a novice. So he was
amazing.
My story.
A parent, the power of a parent,
Yeah.
The support of just that encouragement to follow your passion is so important. I love that she told you to do that.
Yeah.
Totally.
Cady?
Oh, strangely enough, I was just thinking about other actresses like Jessica Lange and Jodie Foster, and just seeing the great risks that they took in their career, the choices that they made to take on difficult characters or difficult stories. Those things like always really just impressed me. I don't know why Jessica Lange is in my head right now, but Frances. Do you guys remember Frances, the film?
Yes,
Frances?
I remember that one. Yes, it was a great film. She was wonderful.
My God, so great, so powerful. I was so struck by it, and I remember thinking, "Wow, acting can be like that." Like that movie's changing my life. Like I got to think about things now. Like I got to look at things. And I think that probably really influenced a lot of the way that I work now, which is, I really love it when a story or something like that is able to impact another person's life or their choices, So I got to give Jessica Lange snaps, give her flowers and
I love that.
credit for me being a risk taker.
You speak of challenges, and last summer, you took on a pretty big challenge of doing you know, Shirley Valentine at Cape May stages. I mean, by yourself, you know, what was, when you think back, like you look at that experience, what, you know, pops into your head about it?
Well, the first thing was I accepted the job without reading the full script. I didn't even get the full script. I was like, oh yeah, let me look it up online. Oh yeah, this looks great. One woman show, like super cool. What is it, like an hour? I'm like, I didn't find out it was 2 hours and 41 single-spaced page monologue, like a 15-minute break in which I have to give myself a self-tan and put on like a whole new outfit in 15 minutes. So I was like, you have lost your mind, girl. You are just saying yes, maybe a little too quick. Yes, Fred. Oh, did you want to say so? Oh,
no, I'm laughing. Yeah, no,
yeah, like, okay.
Well, I just feel compelled to say, and I want to say what a wonderful performance it was, and also in anticipation of today and sharing this announcement on Instagram, one of my friends reached out to me, my beautiful friend Brendan, to say, I saw her in Shirley Valentine and it was a tour de force. It was wonderful. So just want you to know, Cady, you're getting kudos from across the miles. And on that note, Bobby was invoked in a Christmas card by my beautiful friend Dottie, who said that she worked with Bobby at the Garage Theater in Hackensack and had an amazing experience and loved being privy to his process and what an amazingly talented guy he is. So you're both getting kudos from across the miles.
I went to school in Hackensack.
That was one of my favorite plays. I believe it was Enigma Variations. Yes, it was. It was Abel Snorkos. That was the character. Scientist gave up everything, love for science, and then he regrets it. That's the motto. That was one of my favorite. My mom really loved that performance. So God rest her soul. She was right. It was one of my favorite things. I love the theater. So.
I love the fact that you got to perform for Mom, you know, in that way. Cady, you know, knowing, you know, All My Children, As the World Turns, Days of Our Lives, that those experiences of those shows must have been so important to Shirley Valentine and taking all of that script in.
For sure. One of the things that directors tend to say to me, and they've been saying them more and more often recently since I've been working in theater, is how much they love working with actors who've worked on daytime, because you have to make a decision quickly. Mm-hmm. You have to absorb, you know, analyze and make a decision fast. It's not so much the ability to memorize lines, because I think a lot of people are surprised to hear that I really have to work on memorizing lines. I mean, I took an entire month and I only saw one person for coffee that month. Like, I was so disciplined just memorizing that work. And even then, when I got there, I still had to grind for 2 weeks to be ready to go on stage and do it. And even then I was like, you know, like, oh, am I going to make it? You know? So, it's the actors on soaps aren't always natural line memorizers, but we do have to make choices very quickly, and that can be very helpful when you're in a hot seat like that.
That's awesome. I mean,
I saw that Shirley Valentine when it first played. A theater person, you might know him, Cady, David, and Brad. Maybe you know him. I'd like to mention his name because he truly was. Maybe you know him, Alan, too, from the drama bookstore. David Seminin. I don't know if you know him. He was one of the managers there at the drama bookstore for a very long time, and he was a great man who treated me to see great plays. So I just wanted to give him a shout out. He's no longer with us, but in spirit, you know. Yeah,
we have to remember those people, you know. Yeah.
The lovers of the theater, and they just live for it, and they help actors. That's the way the drama bookstore's always been, helping actors and reaching out to them. And and you got people like that used to work in those stores, not a machine.
There's some great people working there now. I actually went there recently, and they gave me a suggestion for a couple of plays, and I was like, "Whoa, these are crazy! These are great!" So
Cool. I got to notice they're
it's
doing
happening
it.
again. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Brad, besides these two talents,
It's
you've
such
had some
a
incredible
sense of community there.
at the
Yeah,
bookstore.
for sure.
Yeah.
Brad, you have had incredible talent, including these two throughout the seasons. And season 2 featured Piper Laurie's final acting role. And in this season, you have Oscar winner Estelle Parsons. Talk about working with all of these talents throughout the 3 seasons.
Oh, wow. Well, it's a feast of riches any way you look at it. And it floors me that people say yes. And I'm completely sincere in this. It floors me that Bobby and Cady said yes. It floors me that Estelle Parsons and Piper Laurie and everyone else has said yes. I have to say, with respect to Piper Laurie, I knew she was aging. We all are. When we recorded Ms. Laurie's scene, she was seated, she was sharp, she was into it. She was playing a disgruntled alien for one of her scenes. And then in her other scene, this is season 2, it was a solo performance. And she did it 3 times, which is, I think, good things come in threes. So even though her first and second take were perfect, I wanted to get it a third because you never know if there's going to be a drag when you're recording remotely. And by drag, I mean a technical snafu. But she was so sharp, and it goes without saying what an honor to have recorded her in any year of her life, to have worked with her in any year of her life. Yeah. And if I can add a little more, going back to season 1, it's not lost on me that Bobby and Cady say yes, in part because there's some work to show for itself at this point. And that comes out of people like Vincent Pastore, Maureen Van Zant, Marsha Mason, Austin Pendleton, who said yes way back in season 1. Those are people that I've worked very closely with, and I know that others among us have worked even closer with them too.
They have. Robert, earlier you mentioned, James Gandolfini. Is it true you met doing A Streetcar Named Desire? That's how you first met?
That's correct. I was auditioned for the European tour. Prior that year, there was a European tour in Germany and Sweden, I believe, in Scandinavia, of Cuckoo's Nest. And the second play that they produced, this producer, Peterson, he produced Streetcar, and we auditioned on Theater Row, and James played Mitch. I still remember him being sweating at the audition. I said, this guy looked just like Mitch. He's sweating. He's got a white shirt on. He's got the glasses on. And he later did it on Broadway with Alec Baldwin. But yes, that's how we met, and we became friends. For 3 months, we toured Scandinavia, and we had a great time with a mobile set that kept collapsing after every performance. So it was a lot of fun.
I mean, that's how many years before Sopranos is that?
I would say about 12 years, 10 to 12 years before Sopranos. And James, we did meet one time with John, who was in the John Barone, who was in the production. And, he went to California, and I was working at Caroline's, managing Caroline's. I started as a doorman / bouncer, skinniest bouncer on Broadway. And that's the comedian used to say, look at that guy, he's the skinniest bouncer. Anyway, I did that. And then a friend of mine went up to him and said, if I was you during the Soprano run, before the 3rd season, I tried to get Bobby Funaro a gig on your show. Oh, Bobby, how was he doing? And he found out I was at Caroline's, and then hence he came in, and it's a Cinderella story. And he came in and offered me an audition, and I landed a role. So, but that was great. He's a great man. So I really honor him.
You certainly landed a role, and we'll come back to that. But that's a gentleman for you.
Yeah.
That's a gentleman for you.
You didn't have an agent back then. You really were. And I think James knew about the struggle that actors had. So hard to get an agent. Even when I got on the show, it was still a little easier because I knew Jimmy, but it's so difficult. And you try, as Jack Lemmon would say, send the elevator down. And he did do that. And the great actors really, I think, all try to do that for their friends and people close to them.
I hope they do. I mean, I think that's a really beautiful story, and one that should be shared, because that's
Thank you.
What a nice way to just take care of your friends as well. Cady, you were talking about the bookstore and the person there giving you some plays. Is that for the Axial Theater? Because I know you're the artistic director. Are you working on some upcoming projects you can maybe share?
Oh, thank you so much. Well, this Saturday, we're doing a reading of a new play. We have a new play, full-length play reading series, and we're doing it online this Saturday. It's a new play by a playwright named Chima Chikazunga, and it's called One Letter Shy of Coincidence. And it's
great name.
Isn't it great?
Great
Trayvon Martin meets Emmett Till in heaven, and and they have a conversation about how, well, I'm not sure if I should give it away, but one of the characters has to go back down and be a part of some of these events that are happening in order to try to bring hope, so that one of the other characters can continue on to heaven. So it's
made the hair on my body stand up. I mean, wow, that is clever.
Yeah, and it's beautiful. And so, we have a beautiful cast, and our lead mentor, Samuel Harps, is going to be be in conversation with Chima about the play. So we're just, as the theater company, we're just facilitating this conversation to happen. And it's free. It's open to the public. You can go onto our website, Axial Theater, spelled RE.org, and just RSVP, or go on social media and come right onto the Zoom link. It's very casual, but we're excited to be able to share this part of the process of developing plays with the community.
How did this play come to the theater?
Chima had submitted a short play when we were doing our online short play development reading series in 2022. And he and I had worked together on that play, which was called Folding Danica, where two women who were formerly in a relationship meet in a laundromat and sort of try to hash out their relationship again. So that was a really nice experience. And so when we developed this program, I reached back to Chima to say, like, hey, do you want to be a part of it? Do you have something that's full length that you're working on? And so it kind of went like that. So many amazing playwrights, and Brad and I, I think, connected as well. When we were doing Cactus Flowers, he was starting to come to some of the events, and it was just so thrilling how helping playwrights has expanded my reach into the world, into the theater world. And I think it sort of solidified my friendship with Brad as well, in terms of us being like-minded and trying to, create work that has an impact and has, it's creative. It's also fun. It's also has some social relevance to it. And just to bring it back around to Brad, I'm very excited about what he has been able to create theatrically in the world of theatrical podcasts. I think it's very, very unique. And so I'm so happy to sort of scoop him into my world as he scooped me into his.
And how long have you been at the theater now at Axial?
I started at the end of 2021. So it's 2 years now. Yeah.
And talk about what it has meant to you to be in that role, because it's a new, that you hadn't done that before, had you? Something like that?
No, I've never been an artistic director before, but I've produced, and I'm a really, I think of myself as a problem solver. Like, part of producing, as anyone knows, is you're creating opportunities for people, you're handling personalities, and you're problem solving. And whatever, because I produced, the films that I've done, and that really gave me a big insight into working with people and organization and organizations. And so this kind of was like a dream come true, however, because I was given carte blanche to rebrand the organization, and doing the short play readings online gave me the opportunity to bring my community, certainly from daytime, as well as some of the nighttime and film actors that I know, into the theatrical world, because everybody loves to work on theater. Just like Robert was saying, like actors love to work on theatrical material that's been written for the stage. I don't know why it's different, but I think it's missing that the visual element of the camera that's telling the story. It's just actors and the words, so it's very pure, and so it's not on the page. That story isn't being told, and it's also an actor's medium, theater. It's us and the playwrights working together to tell something, or to enlighten something, or bring something to life. And so that's a joy. And so I've really enjoyed bringing people together to have that pleasure. And what's been very exciting, we did a monologue show and we just packed the house. I mean, people were coming in. I don't know where. I was like, where are these people coming from? So
for monologues.
For monologues, yeah, in person. And so that was very exciting that now we're starting to get traction. We're starting to really impact the community in Westchester, where the company is based. We've also done some amazing things in New York City as well. So we're working back and forth with that. And then online again, which again gives our reach to Los Angeles and across the country and the world. But my goal is, of course, try not to be too greedy, but I do love to create theater, and I just want to keep working with great people like Brad and Robert, and who knows, Alan, who knows how you'll come around, but it's just great.
I love that. I love you could actually feel the excitement radiate from you about it.
Oh, nice. Yeah,
you really can. Is that what you love about theater, Robert?
Yes, it's just it's like jazz to me. It's like going to the Blue Note. It's right there. And as Cady says, you got to think quick on your feet and think anything can happen. Beauty happens. Some nights you got it, some nights you don't, but you just don't get on yourself. You just remain focused. I am working with a woman, Valerie Arani, from and I've done some stuff at the Siegel Center in New York with City College. She's a producer, and she works to translate Italian plays to English. And we just worked on this guy, Matteo Torre. We just did a reading at the Siegel Center, which was so great to be there live with people, as opposed to the Zoom thing that we do. But it was just great, and then go out afterward, and it was a series of monologues. But the Italian plays, they really are very good. I worked on a podcast of one called Metropolitan Miracles, and it was kind of a metaphor for, I think, to me as a director and acting in it, for COVID, in the sense that there was sewage in the streets of Italy, and everyone had to live inside, and everyone's role reversed. So a big chef was working for his wife, who became a gluten-free chef, and their plays, their choice of material, and they've been doing theater a lot longer than we have. I'm not saying the American playwrights, they're really great, but I think they still have a sense of what's happening in the streets, what's happening, the struggle, that I think we have somewhat lost on Broadway in a way, and maybe off Broadway, it's a different story, but their choice of material. So I'm working with her to try to translate. She's translating some plays, because then after they translate and they make a book or the play of them, and they produce them and they distribute them here in America. So I'm working with her to try to maybe perhaps do a live performance of one of these plays. That's my goal if it happens. But I do love theater, as Cady said. It's wonderful. And I'll even throw my hat in the ring. Cady, I need a job. I love it. Why not?
Send me those plays. I'd love to read them. Send me
Okay.
yeah.
All right, I'll send you.
That'd be
Brad,
great.
do you have a play in you?
I'm tempted to jump in, but I hope I'm not. Is there a play in me? There are always plays in me. And hopefully I'm not too late in the conversation and I'm not nodding at the wrong spots. When we're hearing about sewage in the streets of Italy, I don't have a dopey smile on my face. But if you're still on the conversation around theater and an actor's love for theater, I'm tempted to invoke a conversation that I was privy to, facilitated by Cady and our mutual friend Suzanne Ordas Curry. Thank you, Suzanne. Wherein they were talking about how an artist measures success. And I hear what Bobby is saying with respect to Broadway maybe losing sight of kind of the people's struggle, which I think is often reflected in things theatrical, the human experience. And yet the Broadway theater is so focused on what's commercial, as so many things are. And I'm not saying that's bad. They have bills to pay. I get that. But yeah, how we measure success, commercialization is one way to do that. But artistic satisfaction and reflecting society back on itself, the struggle of the people, that's an artistic success for me, at least.
I mean, if you walk away, I know some actors, they work, I'm not naming names because I'll get hurt, but they work in TV regularly. But like what Cady does, and I try to do, is to choose material that, you know, that comes from the heart and you really love to do. Yes, you can say, okay, just hypothetically, I'm on SVU and I'm a regular on SVU. But at the same time, does it satisfy your soul that you're working on this? Or would you rather? I think I'd rather be working on things that I truly, and I know you have to make a living, of course. We all do. But at the same, I wouldn't refuse the work, but I think I choose not to be like that in that sense, to do that and to do things that are really rewarding in the sense of that you really get something good out of it. I mean, you play jazz, you're playing that you really, you know what I mean? And you love what you do. So, I mean, and getting back to what Brad says, how do you measure this, what does it measure? How is that measured? How is success measured? I guess
you might have been successful, Robert, in business, but you might not have been happy.
Yes, there you go.
You know, it really, well, speaking, you know, of success, I mean, that little elevator pitch that James Gandolfini did and got you in for the audition that you scored the role of Eugene Pontecorvo in 4 seasons on The Sopranos. When you think back on that whole experience, what comes to mind for you?
It wasn't, it's not all roses, you know, a bed of roses or whatever. It just is a lot of struggle involved in it, a lot of self-doubt and a lot of questioning, a lot of anxiety and some rewarding things too. But it was stressful, but at the same time, joyful also, but not as like I thought it would be. You know, you're fighting, you're in the ring, and it's different than just thinking about it and being there and getting in and do that 15 rounds, so to say. It's not as easy. So it brought me to do other things, of course, but it was challenging, but at the same time joyful. You know, Alan.
And you were a part of, you know, quite a piece of television history too.
Yes, through the COVID crisis, I think a lot more, 2 more generations watched Sopranos and just kind of catapulted. And now we're doing next week, we're all getting together down in Little Italy as having a family dinner, the whole cast. So that should be a lot of fun. 25 years. 25 years. I can't believe it's just 25 years. It's all
I was actually late to the party. I did it before COVID, but I was in the last probably 10 years, and it really, everyone had told me, and it just, I could not stop. And it was just a phenomenal series.
Yeah.
Phenomenal.
I didn't really realize it. Today's the 25th year. It opened today, 25 years ago on TV. So someone was telling me that. So, but yeah, it's just, you didn't know. I mean, and then it happened, and wow, I didn't realize it. Wow. It's really great writing, great work.
Yeah. Right. And here we are. That's what we're talking about so much of. It really starts on that page. Brad, you were going to say something?
I think this is his props.
I was going to ask you a question, Alan, and if you watched Sopranos, Sopranos in the last 10 years, did you binge it? And how was that experience? Because we all eked it out from week to week.
Oh, I know. I couldn't imagine having had to wait. No, I binged it. I actually was working for a television and movie tour company in New York, and we did the Sopranos tour to New Jersey. And I had been there probably, I was there 10 years before the pandemic hit. And maybe 5 years in, I'm like, it's about time that I watch the series. And I couldn't stop. It really was, that was something to binge. And I can imagine the anticipation of people watching live week after week must have just been incredible. But that's so interesting too that you mentioned that, Robert. I think so many shows during the pandemic had a revitalization. I mean, supposedly Suits right now on Netflix has had like a resurgence. Crazy about that. Brad, talking about writers and celebrated writers, what has it been like working with Judy Gold in season 3 and Bruce Valanche in season 2, who are interpreting your work as voice actors?
Oh, wow. That's a great question. I mean, again, it's an honor that they say yes, and I'll say that until my last day. But Judy Gold improvising a line, we were working through something together. I had a comedic line scripted, and we were trying to make it a little bit more punchy, and she helped me with that. She's Judy Gold. She did more than help me. She did me and the project a solid, and what a huge badge of honor. It's something about, it's directed at what's now my character, per Cady and Bobby. You're 40 years old. You're not going to find yourself on the Niagara Bird Trail. She made it come to life in a way that I couldn't quite get myself. And then Bruce Valanche is a high school colleague of my stepfather who's watching today. And Bruce Valanche asked if he could wordsmith a little bit of it was a monologue about the vastness of the universe. It's him and Mindy Cohn in the middle of the desert waiting for a UFO. Although only Bruce's character knows what they're waiting for. Anyway, he asked if he could wordsmith some stuff in that longer section. What? No, Mr. Valanche. And again, what a huge badge of honor.
And I mean, talk about comedians. I mean, both of them, make me laugh just the minute I see them on screen.
Judy's
yeah.
Oh God, and speaking of writers, Cady McClain, I am reading in preparation for my interview with that gentleman quite well. What did you think? Were you involved in helping him do this?
No, this is all John. All flowers go to John. He worked so hard on this. He was writing all during the pandemic. And he had it, I was kind of a jerk. I was like, I am not reading 400-page rough draft. I have other things to do during the pandemic that are really important. But oh man, I'll never.
I'm enjoying it. I, already 60 pages in, can see it being a, movie.
Yeah, totally. I'm like, dude, when, what's going on with the option agreements? Because I agree. Like when I read like later drafts, and then when he got this to this final draft, I was like, this is a series. This is a franchise. Like this is major IP, dude. So we're just, he's just in that process of getting it out there. And the responses have been amazing. I'm so proud
Well,
of him.
I see him. I see him in it. I mean, you could be, like, right. There's
Sure. I just told him yesterday, I was like, you should be in it. Cause like, we were like thinking of like famous people, like, oh, this person or that person. I was like, you should do it. But movies, it's always about financing and stuff like that. But hey, maybe someone will see that, see him in it. Cause I think he would, you're right. I think it'd be great.
Yeah. And I'm, totally enjoying it. Cady and Robert, you both spend so much time helping others learn the art of acting. How would you each describe your approach when you're teaching? Robert, do you want to go first?
Okay, yeah. Well, I think you really can't, as said many times, teach it, direct it. But the best thing, I think, for me at least, is that the person that I'm working with, he sticks to it or she sticks to it, that there's some sort of trajectory so you can see the improvement. And if people have the right stuff or if they're listening correctly and they apply themselves, it's really rewarding in that sense that you could see that progression. That to me is really what it's all about. I mean, I love to have an end game of saying, okay, with a bunch of actors, and after we do this, we're going to do a play. We're going to do this play. That would be a great thing to do. So you can just get be under the gun, so to say. Because I think there's a lot of truth to what David Mamet talks about in his book, True or False, that you really you can't be stuck in a class for the rest of your life. You got to get out there and mix it up a little bit. Well, after the 2 years at Sandy's thing, you get to get out there and work. But I think a lot of actors were stuck, maybe not now because of everything that happened with COVID. We're kind of stuck in class. I think somewhat, I'm not talking about the actor studio, but somewhat it becomes kind of a crutch and everything, to really, applying yourself. So in that sense, I'm directing, and I find it rewarding in that sense, Alan.
And you, Cady?
Well, I just love everything that Robert said about that. And I think what's most rewarding for me is when it actually happened the other day. So I have built off of my sort of core teacher, Michael Howard's technique of helping actors build their own toolkit so that they can go inside and go like, oh, I'll use this sense memory. I'll use this relaxation exercise. I'll use this animal exercise or whatever it is that they think is going to be helpful for building this character or this kind of, scene, approach to a scene. So one of the actors actually did something like use the tool that he had learned in class and kind of I watched the light go on and he went, oh, right. And then he had the tool and it was his tool now. From now on, he can use that and it's all his. And he's so silly. He went like, thanks, actor's toolkit. And just the other day too, he was like, I sometimes swear, like it's people who know me know that I can swear a lot. And I won't swear here, but he was like, Cady McClain. And he was like, I was like, did I say that about myself? And he's like, yes, you called yourself that. And I'm like, okay, yeah. So I love that the students begin to enjoy my personality and take it that I'm not there for me. I'm there for them to grow. And I want them to not perform for my approval, but for their own sense of knowingness that they are artists and that they're important to society and that what they have to give is of value. And if they achieve that knowingness, then I'm happy. And then the world is a better place. Right?
I think that Alan, with all the influences and everything, and there's a saying, I wish the stage was there was a tightrope for those people who really, I don't know, it's kind of weird, like what Cady's saying. There's a craft to acting, it's a beautiful craft. And there's been amateurs like in Cassavetes films that have worked and they mix it up with the professionals. But I think there really truly is, it's a craft, and you just, shortcuts really not rewarding, but the long haul and learning and crafting and getting better and learning that, getting that tool that works. It's just nothing more better than that.
Yeah.
You know, but there's a separate of that influencer thing that just drives me crazy, you know.
But it must be rewarding for both of you to watch people you work with that you've been able to provide those tools, that they, you know, the light bulb goes off like that one did, and they pull it out of the air and give a performance that you are proud of watching them succeed in doing it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. The goal is really to like keep the light on, if that makes sense, like interiorly, you know, because the business is full of monsters, you know, and people who are will dampen your light. And so sometimes class is a place to come home and lick your wounds and help get your light turned back on again, so that you can go out there and try again and hopefully get nice opportunities like being on a cool podcast. Like,
Exactly. Well, speaking of the podcast and the final episode, Brad, tell us about the original song.
Francois Clemmons, best known, but not exclusively known. No one's just one thing. Best known for 25 plus years on Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood as the friendly police officer. Also a Grammy winner, recorded an original song that I wrote. And that, in addition to Oscar winner Estelle Parsons, brings us out of season 3. So if you haven't listened, as Alan said, you can find it wherever you listen to podcasts. And yeah, what an honor. I'm Google Dr. Clemmons, and you'll learn more. He's having a moment, and we love him.
He's great. Do you have a season 4 in mind already, Brad?
I should have anticipated this question. I think the wheels are always turning, and yet we just season 3 yesterday. So I hate to say no, but I hate to say yes to the universe. I think some of our season 3, Cady and Bobby don't know this, but some of our season 3, I had some other episodes planned with other characters. And then the strike happened. So we kind of had to wrap at 7 episodes. Not kind of, we had to wrap at 7 episodes. So I have some ideas that are already written, and it doesn't make a full season. So I'm just trying to see what I can do with that. And yet, like all 3 of you, there's always ideas. Theater that's an actor's medium. I want to challenge myself and write a mockumentary. I want to make a documentary. So there's always creative wheels turning. And
well, ideas.
The short answer, Alan, is that yes, I have an idea, but I'm just 24 hours removed from.
Yeah. I understand. But the big answer is ideas are endless. So you never know. You never know. Thank you all so much. Congratulations, Brad, on season 3. Cady, great to see you. Robert, pleasure to meet you.
Thank
you, Alan. Thank you, Brad.
Thank you for having us.
Want to stay here for just a minute? We can say goodbye after I sign off. Thank you, guys.
Great.
Okay.
Thanks, everybody, for joining us today. Thank you, Brad. Thank you, Cady and Robert, for spending the hour. To learn more about Around the Sun, visit aroundthesunpodcast.com. All 3 seasons are available wherever you listen to podcasts. Don't forget to tune in to General Hospital, 60 Years of Stars and Storytelling, tonight at 10 p.m. on ABC. And join me next Thursday when actor Dominic Burgess, who you may recognize from American Horror Story Delicate, Raising Hope, Doctor Who, and It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, will join me next Thursday, January 11th. If you haven't yet subscribed to my YouTube channel, you can do so down below. Turn on notifications for reminders of all upcoming shows. And if you'd like to stream audio versions, you can search The Locker Room on your favorite streaming platform. Have a great weekend, everybody. And as always, please, please stay safe.